It is the Arch Advocate Show for Thursday. I am your host, Pete Dobson. Thank you for joining. Thank you for hitting share, hitting like, hitting retweet, hitting subscribe. Hit subscribe, yo. Now listen, I've made this clear on a previous episode. I don't remember which one. Sometimes I talk about little things in the human condition that kind of, perk their head up on a regular basis that I despise. One of the things that I don't like is when people cannot apologize, right? Like, dude, it makes it so much easier in life. You know what I mean? It just releases so much pressure. Like, when you know that you screwed up, right? Just say you're sorry. Just get it over with, man. It relieves a bunch of pressure, and it helps you grow as an individual, and it brings you closer to other people. But there's people out there that are like, apologizing is a sign of weakness, right? Now look, I don't like that when I see that, right? Because I see the problems that sort of mentality of like, apologizing is weakness. I see the problems that causes, and it drives me nuts, particularly when politicians don't like acknowledge when they screwed up. It's like, dude, if you screwed up, just say you're sorry, right? Don't be like Barack Obama and go around, go on a world tour of giving hand jobs to other world leaders. Like, oh, I'm sorry. And like, not like that, but just like, hey, man, like, getting into a war with Iraq. It's like, well, all right, we had bad information. Bob Mueller's, in part responsible for that, and Colin Powell. You know what I mean? Like, those people should be held to account. But on the other hand, right, like I had this conversation recently with my wife after we had an argument, and I said to her, look, I realize that in this argument, like, I am partly at fault because I'm part of the equation. Therefore, I know that I'm partly at fault, and I want to apologize, but I fear that if I apologize, you're going to take that and think to yourself that I'm assuming 100% of the blame, which I'm not. Like, there was something that you did that was part of this, and I want to make sure that you go and you sit down and you take the time to meditate on what your end of the part of this bargain was. You know what I mean? Like, there is that sort of give and take, right? Well, why did I just say all this? I'll tell you why. Like, Mr. President, like, please don't apologize to those people. You've got them on the ropes, man. You've got them. You know what I mean? This thing yesterday where President Trump, came out and retracted what he said and made an apology. And why did he make that apology? Because there's all these people like John Brennan are calling him a traitor. It's like, dude, you don't need to apologize to him. Don't apologize to him. He's a son of a bitch. He is a traitor. He is a communist who made it to the highest levels. Right? He made it to the very highest point in the CIA. Rand Paul was talking about this. He's like, dude, when they were talking about putting him in that chair, he said, I filibustered him and I lost. You know what I mean? Like, he saw it coming. Like, dude, we can't have a communist running the CIA. For obvious reasons. Like, if it's like, I could do an entire week's worth of shows. You know what I mean? Like, I could do an hour a day for 5 days on why that's a really bad idea. And I could show like all the consequences that we all now have to pay, right? Because we allowed a communist to be at the highest level of the CIA, right? So let's get back to what I was saying. Mr. President, now I'm going to be sharing this. I'll do a little like Instagram sort of video. And I'm going to shout out to Eric Trump and Don Jr. and Ivanka and you, Mr. President. And if there's any way that I can get you guys to listen, thank you for the honor of hearing me out. But listen, this is like boxing, right? Now let me boxing is called the sweet science, all right? Let me give you my thoughts on the apology of Donald Trump. Now, Mr. President, I'm very happy with the work that you're doing, and I hope to see a lot more. But on this thing of apologies, fighting, right? Boxing, the sweet science, and no other martial art is called the sweet science. It's only boxing, right? And there's first let me start off by saying that, in a street fight, a normal street fight will never last more than a minute and a half. It's 90 seconds, right? Why is that? Now, why is it that, like, I've personally climbed mountains, like, for 12 hours? You know what I mean? Taking breaks every 2 or 3 hours. You know what I mean? How is it that you can have that much energy, yet when it comes to street fighting, street fights only last a minute and a half, 90 seconds. So the reason why is because it's not just about your energy. It's about all the other things. Like the amount of adrenaline that you have flowing through you that just burns through your energy, right? Street fights don't last very long because you've got two people that are flooded with adrenaline. They're flooded with anger and that, that fight or flight response, you know what I mean? That mechanism, and it just chews through your energy and they burn out. That's why fights don't last very long. Most street fights don't ever end up with somebody winning. It just usually results in two people just being exhausted and walking away, right? That's normal. You know what I mean? And you've got, Mr. President, you have the left. You've got them, right? You've got them in a position where they are punching themselves out. Now that's for those who don't know, in boxing, that's one strategy that you can use. And a lot of people use it. It's called letting your opponent punch themselves out. It's where you contain your energy, right? And you dance around and you keep things moving, and you just let your opponent run through all of their energy and exhaust themselves. And a perfect example of that, and I think that is appropriate for this day that we're living in right now. Look, the left, they cannot keep their focus. Right? Look at what they're looking at right now. What are they looking at right now? Treason. Oh, Russia's our enemy. Oh, the president is treasonous. Right? That's what they're saying today. And what were they saying last week? Oh, it's the kids on the border. And what were they saying 2 weeks before that? And what were they saying 2 weeks before that? And what were they saying 2 weeks before that? Right? They can't keep their focus. And every time, CNN feeds them something, or the Young Turks feeds them something, they just go all berserk. You know what I mean? They berserk out on it. And they punch themselves out. And they wear themselves out. And then CNN comes out and, President Trump was getting peed on by Russian prostitutes. And they freak out. Right? It's like, Mr. President, you've got them. You've got them in a position where all you've got to do is dance backwards and just let these people punch themselves out. You've got them on the ropes. Muhammad Ali, right? The Rumble in the Jungle. Let me just take you back. Back in those days, Muhammad Ali, I call him Cash. His mama called him Cassius. I'm gonna call him Cassius. Right, Muhammad Ali was the world champion, and because he refused to go fight in Vietnam, they took everything away from him. They took his belt. He lost all of his money. You know what I mean? They stripped him down. And, he went broke, and he needed some money, so he went to another professional boxer, George Foreman, who was a mammoth. He was a mountain of a man. And he punched harder than anybody. And, to this day, they still say, nobody punched harder than George Foreman. He went to George Foreman and said, listen, man, I need some money. Can you please give me a fight, friend? Right? And out of respect, right? Respect, man. It's Muhammad Ali. What are you going to do? You're saying no. He gives him a fight. It's called the Rumble in the Jungle. It was very gracious of George Foreman. He didn't have to do that. Right? He did not have to give Ali that fight, but he did anyways, so that, he could keep his pride and make some money. And what did Muhammad Ali, what did he do? George Foreman was notorious in those days, not anymore, he's a converted man. But in those days, George Foreman was a violent, very angry person, right? Not a stable individual at all. In his words, right? You can look it up. Muhammad Ali used that against George Foreman. So as soon as Foreman agrees to the fight, Muhammad Ali What made him such a beautiful scientist was that he saw angles that nobody had ever seen before. And you know, to this day, like there was nobody ever like him, you know? And what he did was he saw this Achilles heel in George Foreman, that he was an angry individual. And he used that against him. And as soon as Foreman gave him that fight, Ali goes to, you know, to the newspapers, and he goes to TV, and he goes to his buddy Howard Cosell and gets on TV, and he just talks mad smack. Just says horrible, ugly, awful things about George Foreman. Right? And you would think, like, well, that's kind of a dick move. But when you look at Muhammad Ali's entire body of work, you understand that, like, no, that was strategy. That was as important as his ability to keep breathing in the ring and his cardio. You know what I mean? It was a strategy. What he was going to do is he was going to make Foreman so angry that in the ring he was going to channel that energy, and you can't keep it up. That's the strategy. You cannot stay angry. You'll burn out. It requires too much energy. When I see these leftists, and they're just angry all the time, they're so angry, they're full of it. They get all locked up and their faces contort, you know. You can see it. You cannot maintain that anger, that hatred. You can't walk around thinking everybody's a Nazi and a racist and a fascist. Whatever. It's just not you can't maintain it. There's no way. It's just not physically possible, right? So when your opponent is like that, that's to your advantage, because it means that they're going to burn out quickly. Minute and a half, baby, 90 seconds. And all you have to do, and in that fight, that's what Ali did. He just kept dancing backwards, right? Foreman just kept charging him and just punching himself out. And at the end of that fight, Ali knocked him on his ass. I don't know, I don't know how much into boxing you are, but you should go look at video of those two men standing next to each other. Foreman is gigantic. He was a gigantic, I mean, he still is, but like he was a gigantic man. He was a monster. Ali did not have a prayer to win that fight. Nobody hit harder than Foreman. Nobody was bigger. You know what I mean? So Mr. President's like, dude, you have them. Sorry for referring to you as dude. You've got them. You don't need to apologize to them. You need to keep dancing. Let these people punch themselves out. And in November, we're going to knock them on their ass. Because they're going to be so exhausted, right? Because of all of the distractions. Their own people are the ones wearing them out. What's it going to be next week? Right? When this whole treason thing is over, what's it going to be next week? Oh, some lady from 20 years ago. It's like your limo driver, Mr. President. Your limo driver who is now suing you for overtime from 20 years ago. Right? Like that is a story that is out there. It's like, you tell me that, and I mean, I'm a rational person, so I'm going to look at that and be like, well, why didn't you sue him 20 years ago? Why didn't you sue him 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Why are you just now having a problem with this? Why? You know, why is it now a problem? Now, CNN will take that story and say, oh, look at this greedy 1%er. He didn't pay his driver fairly 20 years ago. And the left will be like, right? They're going to get all wound up. Good. Let them punch themselves out. Right? And when you go on TV, and this is, okay, let me stop talking like I'm speaking to the president. Listen, this is why I don't like this. Now, I love it when people are humble, right? They have a sense of humility, and they can recognize when they screwed up, and they can apologize for it. I love that. That is a beautiful thing. And when somebody is that developed as an individual, I love that. But I don't like it in this particular case because of who it's going to. You weren't apologizing to me, right? There's a lot of Republicans out there. Yeah, there's a lot of people on our side, on the right side, that looked at that, and all they saw was just that part, right? They saw, what they saw appeared to be like capitulation, right? Or giving in. Doing that same thing that Obama did on his world handjob tour. I didn't see that. What I saw was a deal being made where you were leveraging that power to get at, like, okay, well, you want to talk about collusion? All right, let's talk about it. Let's get at those emails. Let's get at those servers, right? Let's, those servers that don't exist, and yet the FBI has made their entire case based on, what was on those servers. But it's like, wait a minute, I thought you didn't have them. I thought Hillary Clinton destroyed. You know what I'm saying? I believe that I'm looking at a bigger picture here. But now it's like, since you've apologized you basically got on TV and apologized to Brennan, because you weren't apologizing to me. I didn't need one. Right? Most of us on the right, even the people who didn't like that, it's like, yeah, I wish you would have said something else, but you know what? You're doing a pretty good job, but we're gonna spot you a little grace here. Maybe you're up to something and I can't see the whole picture. So you weren't apologizing to us. It just looks like you're apologizing to Brennan, and F that guy. F that guy. Let these people punch themselves out. It's already working. Look at these people, man. They're so wound up. You can go on to Fleckus Talks when leftists have their Million Women March, or Black Lives Matter marches, or they go protest in ICE headquarters, whatever. It's like, just look at these people. They're burning themselves out. They're burning themselves out, and they're all weaklings. They're like Snoopy, man. Like you pet them and they go down. Remember that from that one movie? You know what I mean? Like you punch these people in the face and they fall right down, like we saw in Portland. You push back against these people and they collapse. They don't make any sense. You go on to Facebook or Twitter or whatever. You go on to some of these liberal pages and you watch the comments, like read the actual comments. These people don't have rationale. These people are not strong thinkers. They're not objective thinkers. They're weaklings. And they're punching themselves out. And all you got to do is just keep dancing. What are they going to talk about next week? Right? Some lady comes out and says, oh, President Trump groped me in an elevator 20 years ago. It's like, let them punch themselves out. Or whatever the accusation's going to be next week. You know what I mean? Because this thing with the apology and Putin and treason and all that stuff, that'll be over in a week or two. Just like every other mass panic thing that they've put out. Just let them burn themselves out. There's no point in engaging them. And in that fight, the rumble in the jungle, that's what Ali did. That's how he won. He let himself get against the ropes. He let himself get cornered, and old Foreman just punched himself out until he didn't have any more gas towards the end of that fight, and he got knocked on his ass. So those are my thoughts on that. And think about it this way too, like those people that are out protesting right now in front of the ICE headquarters. What does ICE stand for? Immigration, Customs, something or other. I don't know. They're protesting in front of ICE. This is good. This is beautiful. Alexandria Cortez lady, Ocasio-Cortez, she's a ridiculous person. She's out there saying, well, we need to protest ICE and we need to occupy ICE, right? Good. Let that continue, because most people, can see what's really happening. And I'm not just talking about registered Republicans. I'm talking about registered Democrats as well, leftists. They can see it. They see what's actually happening. They see that a violent organization has infiltrated our country, and they've come here to rape and murder and dismember even little babies. We can't have that. That is a national security threat. Most people understand that. It looks a lot bigger because they put a camera on an attractive 28-year-old girl, right? She's pretty. She's a pretty young girl. And everybody thinks like, oh, that's what we need. We don't need this miserable old fried chicken looking hag like Hillary Clinton. We need a pretty girl. Finally, the left has a pretty girl. Because they got a lot of ugly ones on their side. Now, here's a pretty one. And they put a camera in her face. And they put her on TV, which makes it look like when you see somebody on TV, you think, ooh, this is important. This is an important person, right? It's like when you go to church on Sunday and they have the guest speaker or your normal pastor, and they're up there with a microphone. You think, oh, this person has the right to be up there because they're important. Obviously, they're important because they have a microphone. Well, it's the same thing with TV, right? There's a fame effect, which has actually been studied, and I've read the findings of those scientific studies, and there is an effect. When you see somebody on TV being interviewed by other supposedly important people, you think to yourself like, oh, well, this person speaks for a lot of people. Well, no, she doesn't, right? She doesn't. She won the primary in her area, and only, it was less than 5% of registered voters even bothered to show up to vote. That's not exactly a resounding win. You know what I mean? And she's not even a congresswoman yet. Like, that's another thing. Like, look at leftists right now. They're all like, you go into the Young Turks and, whatever, and you read the comments when it's a story about her. These people don't understand civics at all. Like, they think, in their mind, she's already a congressperson. Like, they don't understand, like, oh, no, that's just a primary. She won the right to run in November. She does not represent Congress. You know what I mean? She does not represent her district in Congress yet. She might win, but she's not there yet. Like, these are dumb people, right? So you put her on a screen, and everybody thinks like, oh, this is no. She's a dummy, and there's not a lot of people that believe what she's like. She's up there. She was in an interview recently talking about economics. You know what I mean? She has an undergraduate degree, period. And because it's an undergraduate degree, it doesn't matter what her major was in. It's still an undergraduate degree. An undergraduate degree is 4 more years of high school, right? It's years 13, 14, 15, and 16. When you go to do your undergraduate degree, they make you learn everything. English and math and science and history, all the subjects. That's what your undergraduate degree is for. And then once you're done with that, then you get to specialize and concentrate on one thing. She didn't do that. She did 4 more years of high school. And by the way, she finished those 4 more years of high school 6 years ago. She's that young. You know what I mean? She has no experience. She has no idea about economics. Like, in her little brain, she just thinks like, oh, well, we're just going to give people free college. And we're going to guarantee people jobs. Start asking her, like, where are these jobs going to come from? Who are these employers? This money that's going to pay for all this free college, who's going to pay it? Is it going to be the institutions of higher learning? Or is it going to be taxpayers in your district? Like, who's going to pay for it? You get her talking about things like that, and she locks up. Oh, well, we're just going to move away from the U.S. currency as being the dollar, and we're just going to move to, kitten whiskers and tickles. That's going to be the new currency. She's stupid. She was just on an interview talking about, like, Palestine and the occupation, and the interviewer asked her, like, well, you say occupation, what do you mean by that? And she froze. She's a dummy. She's a dummy. Like, we don't have to worry about, even if she wins, oh, if she wins, that's kind of a win for us, right? Because she's a dummy. She's a dum-dum. She's uneducated. She has an undergraduate degree, and that's it. She has an undergraduate degree and 6 years experience as a bartender and somebody who, brought taquitos to people. That's literally, she worked in a taco shop. Not a threat, right? Bernie Sanders gets up there and talks his nonsense, and like leftist organizations like the Young Turks, like they love it. And yes, there is like this weird push right now where Facebook is going to be paying out more money to run more like quote news stories like this, and they're going to be further pushing people away from like Louder with Crowder and InfoWars and Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson. Like they're going to be purposely trying to move people away from reasonable people. That's fine too. It's fine. They are actively weakening people's minds. That means that our opponents are weak-minded individuals, and they will continue to be weakened because they don't stand up and walk away. Right? And there's a lot of people walking away, and guess where they're walking? Right? Those people that are walking away, it's not a walk away, it's not a trend, right? It's not a fad. These people are walking away because they're looking at like, Cortez, Alexandria Cortez, and they're looking at her and it's like, well, you say free college, and every other politician who's ever run has said free college or more money for college, but what do you mean by that? The money has to come from somewhere. Where is it going to come from? The millionaires and the billionaires, but you don't even have enough money to take from them to pay for everybody's medical insurance. Universal Medicaid, like there's not enough money for everybody. So since that's off of the table, the only other option is you have to tell the institutions of higher learning that they have to reduce their tuition. But that's not going to happen because these leftists are all hypocrites. So what are you going to do? Right? Mrs. Cortez or Miss Cortez, like what are you going to do? And the way that, it's, when she starts explaining it, it's literally as stupid as like when we were all kids, we had dumb ideas about things. I told you that story before. Like when I was a kid, I was, 5 or 6 or whatever. Me and my buddy decided that we were going to make an engine for a go-kart that ran on dirt. Because obviously there was dirt everywhere. You know what I mean? Why did I think that? Well, because I was young and stupid. I didn't understand that like internal combustion and you can't make an internal combustion engine out of wood and engines don't run on dirt. They run on, flammable liquids and, that whole thing. And you get older and then you learn stuff. Well, this is a 28-year-old girl who, has not yet come to that place where it's like, well, if you want money, then you have to earn money. And when you start taking money away from the people that earn it, it's like, for example, like the whole conversation of, we need to raise the minimum wage. Okay, well, let's talk about that. So you want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, right? But you ask them, when they talk about that. So you raise the McDonald's employee, you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now McDonald's has to pay them $15 an hour. Are they going to take it in the pants? You know what I mean? Are they going to take that shot in the wallet? No. No, if they were paying $10 and now they're being obligated by law to pay $15, well, that's a 33% increase. So if a Big Mac meal supersized costs $10, well, guess what? Now it's going to cost $15. They're just going to raise the price, right? You understand that? Like, you understand how that works? Well, then we'll just make a law that they can't control what it is that they charge for people. No, you can't do that. It's against the law. Checkmate. Check and mate. Now what are you going to do? So you've increased the minimum wage. McDonald's increases, the cost of their product, right? Which causes two things to happen. It causes people to slow down their purchasing, right? It causes people to rethink, well, if I'm going to spend $15 here, I might as well just go to a better place. A place that's more commensurate of a $15 burger, like, I don't know, Five Guys or something like that. You know? Like, it causes that, and it also causes McDonald's to say, well, I guess I need to figure out a better way of employing, right? Like, maybe instead of having somebody standing at the counter taking orders, maybe I could put in a kiosk where I only have to pay, you know, whatever, $50,000 for a kiosk, and I only have to do it once, and that thing will be there forever and ever. Now I don't have to pay anybody, right? Now you've caused unemployment. Well, I'm going to guarantee jobs. I'm going to make it so that they can't do that. You're saying that you're going to take an employer, a human being, a U.S. citizen who owns a business, and you're going to tell them that they have to employ people? No, that's against the law. You can't do it, so checkmate. Now what are you going to do? Well, I just, we need communism then. I guess socialism won't work. You see what I'm saying? Like, it is a very slippery slope, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't take very long. You get talking to these people, it's like, okay, I understand that you want people to make more money. I'm with you on that, right? I also wish that more people made more money, right? But then there's the actual components, right? There's the working parts that you have to address. Where is the money going to come from? You know what I mean? Who is it that's going to employ these people? And when it comes to like free education, why is it that none of you socialists, right? Like, it's clear, nobody would disagree. Like institutions of higher learning have been run by liberal arts people for decades. Like, that college and universities are leftist, or that's leftist indoctrination. That's what you learn. You learn leftist stuff in college. So that means that the employees there, the professors and the administrators, like, they're all on board with leftist ideology. They're the ones, every time the federal government makes more money available for colleges, the colleges just raise their rates. Why? Because there's more money on the table and they want to get that money. They're capitalists at heart, just like everybody else. And until you can address that, you cannot be talking about, well, we're just going to tax the rich. Why don't you go talk to the administrators at those colleges and say, why don't you reduce your tuition and your fees and the money that you pay your professors and all of your employees? Why don't you reduce all of that so that people could then afford an education that is going to be worthless? Well, we can't do that. That wouldn't be right. Well, why wouldn't it be right? Well, because those are hardworking individuals. Oh, I see. So people should be able to get paid based on what they are worth. I see. And if you say that the McDonald's employee is worth $80,000, $150,000 like the administrator or the tenured professor, right? You see what I'm saying? Is that what you're saying? You want the burger flipper to get paid the same amount as the professor or the dean? Is that what you're saying? Oh, no. You see what I'm saying? Like, these people, they don't think. Like, they have an ideal, which is a good starting point, right? Yes, ideally, I wish. Listen, I'll give you like my little run-in with socialism that I did like. It's kind of socialism. I once shattered my knee. And when that happened, it was during a period of my life when I did not have health insurance of any sort. I was self-employed and I shattered my knee. And I was taken to the hospital and they performed surgery on my knee that involved an 8-inch rod, like a plate rod, and 12 screws, all titanium. right? So the surgery and the materials used to reconstruct and put my leg back together, because my knee was shattered into 12 different pieces. It was pretty bad. I didn't have the money and I didn't have insurance, and it was $80,000. $80,000, right? I didn't have it, and they had no expectation of getting it because they knew before they did the surgery that I don't have insurance, but they did it anyways. You know why? Because in America, we don't let people, fade away. We don't let that happen. That's just part of our thing. Like, if you are repairable, if we know scientifically that we can repair you, you will get repaired. That's why illegal immigrants are such a burden on the medical system, is because in our Christian ethic, we don't let people just suffer. Right? We fix them. No matter who they are, if you're in a hospital in the United States and you're sick with something that they know that they can fix, you're going to get fixed. Now, that put me $80,000 into debt, but you know what? I got fixed, right? So that's quasi socialism. The reason it's not socialism is because I was put $80,000 in debt. So when you talk about like paying for everybody's medical care, you're saying like you wanted to give me $80,000 worth of work and not have me be responsible to pay it back, right? You want to put the responsibility to pay that on somebody else. Well, who's that somebody else going to be? Is it going to be the millionaires and the billionaires? Well, those people only represent less than 3% of American society. You can't have 3% of the people paying for 97% of the people. Mathematically, economically, that does not work. There's not enough money. So you have to figure out, are you going to go ask those surgeons? Are you going to ask that surgeon lady who put my knee back together? Thank you, Dr. Schultz, by the way. You going to go ask her, hey, why don't you take less money? Well, why would I do that? I'm a good surgeon. She was actually one of the top surgeons for her, because she was in the rankings of one of the best in America. Just luck of the draw. I had no part in that. I just got real lucky. What are you going to tell her? Well, you should pay. If you accepted less money, then more people would be able to have access to your services. It's like, well, not really. I'm worth that much money because I'm good at my job. So if you want me to, if you want there to be a different, scenario here, it's not going to involve me taking less money. It's going to involve you going and figuring out who else is going to pay for it. So you're just going to go to the 3% of Americans, most often referred to as the 1%. You're going to go tell them, oh, you need to pay all this extra money. They don't have enough money. There's 3% of us, them, and 97% of us. There's not enough money. You know what I mean? There's not enough money for medical care for all. And that's not even getting into the conversation of when you make things free, more people show up to get free stuff. That's just a fact. Right? So you've got medical care, right? This is the platform that the left is going to run on for this election coming up in November. They're going to run on two things: medical care and education. Mostly medical care, right? And that's going to be their downfall, is because when you actually get them on stage and get them talking about actual numbers, they do the same thing, just like Bernie did 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. Just like Bernie Sanders did. Like, he's very compelling if he's talking to his own people. Hey, we're going to get the millionaires and the billionaires. Let me comb my hair with this balloon. We're going to get the millionaires and the billionaires to talk about it. Well, hey, Bernie, you made $1 million a year for the last 3 years. Well, it's because I'm a politician. People, you know what I mean? Like, they start tripping up. As soon as you start talking about practical, like actual things, they lose their collective feces, if you know what I mean. They can't talk about it because they don't care. They live in some weird, that's what I was getting at, this ideal where everything ought to be free. Sure, I am very happy that I live in such an ideal, well, not at the moment, but that in my country, we live in such an ideal situation where I know if my body gets broken, my people will repair me if it's possible. And they'll do it without regard to payment. Because that's our ethic. That is a Christian ethic that causes doctors to do that. That all comes from Christianity, right? It's not like that everywhere else in the world at all. So we live in this ideal, and sure, ideally, there would be no currency. There would just be barter and trade, and everybody doing their part, and everybody acting responsibly. But we don't live in this ideal where the people who work the hardest pay for everything else. That only happens in the home, right? And that's ultimately what socialists are trying to get at, is they're trying to take your authority of your home and all of your belongings and all your money. Because they hate the fact that people can work hard and do well. Because when they see that, it gives them the recognition, like their eyes, their mind, their soul recognizes that they too are responsible to work hard and better themselves. They don't want to do that because that's dirty, ugly work. Working on yourself is hard work, and it takes discipline and hard work and sweat. They don't want that. And when they see that other people can work hard, and then when people migrate to our country legally and they come here and they work their asses off, that's why people from India and people from Asia are the richest people in our societies. Because when they come here, they're like, you're kidding me, right? All I got to do is work my ass off and I can just have as much money as I want. That's what you're telling me. Like, to them, that's some mind-blowing shit right there. What do you mean? I can just work as hard as I can and use my mind, and I can just have as much as I want. Yes, that's what we're trying to tell you. And when people like, Miss Cortez, the 28-year-old bartender, right, who thinks everything is puppies and kittens, and that's going to be the new currency, when she sees that, when Bernie Sanders, a career politician, a guy who's never worked a day in his life, a guy who literally got kicked out of a hippie commune for refusing to work, right? When those types of people, the smarmy little moochers, when those people see hardworking individuals who are gaining in their holdings, and they're gaining in their affluence, and they're becoming better people, and they're raising stronger children, when they see that, it reminds them, like, you were supposed to work hard, and you were supposed to use your creative core to make the world a better place. But because that involves so much work, intensive work on yourself, you ran away from it. And you decided to take on an ideology that kills millions, hundreds of millions of people. Why? Because you would rather have hundreds of millions of people die of starvation than work on yourself. And that's who socialists are. And that's why this is going to be their undoing. Boy, I really went off there. Hey, listen, Mr. President, apologize when you're wrong. Don't apologize when you're not wrong, please. Right? Don't give me an apology when I don't need one. I saw what you said. I guess you could have said something better. I don't know, but it kind of looks to me like you were leveraging all that energy to get at those emails, and to that I tip of the hat to you there, sir. Anyways, look, to the rest of us, you have to vote. You have to vote. I have a close friend on, close friend on social media, on my Telegram page. One of the listeners, I'm not going to say who, but somebody said they're not going to vote this year because, there's still the Electoral College and they don't like it and whatever. It really hurts me to see that. Like, it hurts when I see that. We are in the fight of our lives. A communist made it to be the director of the CIA. James Comey was the director of the FBI. Peter Strzok was in charge of the Hillary investigation, and that's why she got away with it, or has gotten away with it to this point. There is some evil things happening in the world right now, in America. And it would appear that there's a whole bunch of Republicans and Democrats that have been working in concert to destabilize our nation. This is a huge concern to me. I don't want to give any sort of victory to these people, any kind of victory, right? We want to send a clear message that God is with us and God is protecting us individually and protecting the republic which we've built. And it's going to take your participation. You have to vote. You have to vote. Yes, there's a lot of, things that you can use as an excuse, and I'm sure they're all valid. But if you don't believe that your vote matters, then go vote, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you vote. Right? If you truly believe that it doesn't matter if you vote, then go vote, since it doesn't matter anyways. Right? Just vote. We can't let these people continue to win, and we have to send that clear message that we are not going to we're not going to give these people another inch. We're not giving you another inch on the Second Amendment. We're not writing any more rules. There's over 200 of them as it is. We're not going to let you into our schools to teach our children about human sexuality. That's the parents' job. We're not going to let you into our homes and define marriage to us. That is not the job of the federal government. That is a state issue. Probably not even that. All right? More of a local issue, but certainly under the state. We're not going to let these people have anything more. No, we're not going to let you disband ICE. There's people in our country that hate us and are trying to kill us, and they're stealing our children and raping them and mutilating them. That's a fact. That is in the news. That's a fact. We're not giving you another inch. We're not giving you another inch. Matter of fact, all the inches that we've already given you, we're going to be taking most of those back. We're not giving you anything. We're not giving you anything. We don't want to hear you anymore. You are the people who are right now advocating for animals, who are coming to our country to poison our children and to steal our children and murder our children. We're not giving you anything. Nothing. You may no longer come to our table to try to reason with us. We are done with you. You are no longer invited to the table of reason. We tried that. We tried that with gay marriage. We tried that with teachers' unions. Right? We gave you teachers' unions because you felt that teachers needed to unionize. And what did we get for it? You got a bunch of people nationwide who sit around and never teach a class ever in a calendar year. They never teach a class, and yet they just keep getting paid. And yet you keep coming back saying, well, we need more money. And we tried to hear you on that. But you just kept abusing it. We tried to work with you on securing our borders back when Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and every other one of your heroes was talking about, yeah, man, we need to build that wall. And as soon as Donald Trump gets in office, all of a sudden you have a problem with that? Okay, well then you're not reasonable. You are no longer invited to the table of reason, not another inch. We're not going to give you another inch, and we're going to be taking back a whole bunch of them that we've already given you. And I don't believe that Roe v. Wade is ever going to be overturned, but you better believe, leftists, that's on the table. That's on the chopping block. There's a whole bunch of us out there that are thinking, like, if the new Supreme Court gets that overturned, like, there's going to be celebrations about that for many, many years to come. Right? Not another inch, leftists. We're not going to give you anything more. Because you so badly abused our trust to the point to where you people are advocating for MS-13. You people are out there talking about how a 28-year-old attractive girl is your new champion, and she's up on TV talking nonsense. Talking nonsense. And you people just, oh, yay. We're done with you. We're done. right? We're just going to let you punch yourself out, and then we're going to put you on your ass. Go to archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com, archadvocate.com. Truth be told, Jesus Christ is the arch advocate, but as the host of the show, I am a big advocate of the Republic. I am a staunch advocate of our personal freedoms, our God-given freedoms, right? So it's kind of a double entendre. No, I don't see myself as some sort of Messiah thing. Go on to archadvocate.com, follow it, come join the conversation on Telegram. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram, right? Share the stuff that I put out. Share it with your friends, right? Leave a comment. Hit subscribe on your podcast thingy there, right? If you want to support the show, I would certainly appreciate that. You can do that through Patreon. You can do like a monthly thing or a couple of bucks a month, or you can send like just a one-time little handful of quarters, nickels, pennies, and dimes. You can do that on PayPal. Anything you want to do, man. Also, please send me a message, an email off of my website, right? Because I get messages on my website, and I would appreciate it. I want to hear from you, and I will, a lot of times I'll read your messages. I didn't do that today. I'm sorry about that. Hey, it's Thursday, folks. That's the show. I will talk to you tomorrow.